Hello everyone. So in my last video I talked about how I really liked this this kind of water line and I kind of marked that out as something that I wanted to keep and uh and then had a few days to think about how I wanted to paint that, and I actually realized I really like this gradient of light green to medium green and then into this teal and blue, and I just kind of like that gradient. It looks like almost like a sunset. So what I was going to do is mix up the colors, this light green, maybe a medium green, and then this teal. So to get started, and I've got this on the other palette too, or the other canvases too, and so I thought it'd just be kind of fun to um, mix up some paints and see what we've got to work with. So I'm starting with a titanium white, and this is going to be my lightest color, and it's just going to be a very simple, um, like heavy white, mostly white, um, and that'll be that very, very pale green. Then, kind of my medium color is that green. However, you know, uh, so pure colors, I've got a light green. Pure colors kind of go on canvas a little weird. Um, so I'm going to maybe try mixing some whites and blacks with it to see if that changes the um, the, the feeling of that color a little bit. So kind of over on the left, I'm going to mix it with white. So it's just going to be a plain green, and I'm going to have quite a bit. And then I'm going to have some plain green in the middle, a little bit down here because I am going to mix other colors. And that's going to mix with maybe a light gray. And then over here, I'm going to mix it with maybe some black to see, just to explore this color. I've never used this color, and so part of my mixing is to explore the colors. And then the last thing I have is the Phthalocyanine Blue. And this one in the painting is mixed 50-50 with the green. And that gave us that very dark color. Now, in my video, I can kind of see that color. So I'm going to do 50-50 green and phthalocyanine. And now I need to go back in and add just a hint of green to this guy. And then I'll mix that in later. Oh, shucks, I don't have my black paint. And then this one I was going to do just a hint of white. Sometimes the paints, depending on the brand, I'm not very familiar with the Master's Touch mixed colors. I just tend to use the true colors. So not really sure if this is going to mix well. Um, so sometimes the pure colors, they have trouble going on canvas. I just realized I didn't do plain gray. And then also, this dark teal color, I'm curious to know what that looks like with a little bit of gray in it, or maybe even black. So I'm just going to mix quite a few of those colors, and gotta find my black. So I've got two different types of black, but Mars Black is the one that I really like. I'm gonna grab that. So I've got just Mars Black, um, and this is gonna be more so to get some different uh, shades of green. I also just need plain green. So we'll just do some plain green here, just in case I like that better. So I'm mixing a ton of colors. I also, if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I don't like to be wasteful. So I do have a plan of attack for all of these colors so that they are not wasted. For black, tiniest amount of black for black. And then I was going to do a little bit of that teal and green just to see where that color goes. So essentially all of these colors, whatever colors I end up with here, they need to last for 3 canvases. So that's why I'm going a little heavy on this. But then, and as per my previous videos, And as is my normal, I forgot to grab water. One of these days, I'm just going to have a water thing in my studio, or a sink in my studio. Okay, so the way that I mix, again, not the professional way of mixing, but don't care. So I tend to use the back of my paintbrush. I know that a lot of people use like the painter's blade knife thing. I just use the back of the paintbrush. And this color, so basically we're just trying to do a color match as close as I can. And I'm gonna get the painting while doing this at the same time. So this might not exactly work. Yeah, not working. Love doing this on camera. So let me clean up my mess that I just made and start over again. These are things that I wish I could delete, but it's kind of hard to delete when you're making an actual product like a painting. So painting and this color right here. Pretty close. And you might be able to actually see it better up here. It's a little bit light, but it's basically green and white. That's what I wanted, and that works. So that particular color will work. All three canvases have that color. So going through, cleaning off my little stir stick, I'm going to go to the next green color. So that's going to be mostly green with just a hint of white. And essentially, like I said before, sometimes greens or sometimes the mixed colors or even just colors in general, when they go on canvas, they're a little translucent, so they're kind of see-through. So adding just a hint of white um, essentially makes them just more visible. The color stays on canvas better. So that's that. This is quite a bit of black for what I was hoping for. These should be similar in color, but we're just gonna see what this green looks like. You can see it's a little bit more olivey. So this one's a little bit more bright, almost like a four-leaf clover. And essentially, I am honestly playing with color here. I'm just seeing um, what these colors look like, and that's very essential whenever painting with a new color, just to see how the colors blend with the blacks, the whites, all of that. Black also um, can be a little thin on canvas, so that's primarily why I prefer the gray, but all three of these colors look very nice. I think in the spirit of this particular painting, I do think I actually kind of like this one the best, but got to see what the other colors are going to look like. Um, so, I like the gradient of this very pale to the bright, or even maybe that, and then the black. Gray, not a huge fan of it. I'm actually going to start with this because then I don't have to mix my brush, or I don't have to clean my brush. But so this was the original color that got put on that very dark teal, and it's actually not that dark. So like when I'm mixing it, it doesn't actually look that dark. Um, I personally think that this could uh, do with a little black in there. I just said that I wasn't gonna rinse my brush or my stick, but whatever. So now I'm gonna add this little bit of white, and I added way too much of this. So that green, that white, so when you can kind of see the white with that phthalocyanine blue makes just a very rich, like almost Mediterranean sea blue. And this particular painting was focusing more on the green aspects for this part of the painting. So, um, so if I had to pick a direction to go with this gradient of color, I definitely like this, and actually surprisingly like this. There is, I'm gonna quick show this on the canvas. So this, let's see which one's easiest to see on the camera. We'll go with this guy. So, so here we can see this light color is definitely there. This dark color. There's darker spots in here, but like right along the line is kind of where you see that color. And then here's that dark color again. I think that particular gradient is perfect. So I've got all my, well, I've got 4 colors. Um, so this is where moment of truth. I'm just gonna get them on canvas. I've got other things that I'm doing today, so and apologize for the break in the videos. I do have to go to work. I have community responsibilities, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna get this started and go get on with my day. And like I said, these colors do have to last me for um, 3 canvases, and then anything left over, I'm just gonna plop onto a mystery canvas of just extra colors. So I just have just a very uh, coarse brush that I'm using to get this color on canvas. I'm gonna start light, and then so like this part will be light, this part will kind of be that medium green, and then kind of right in here is where I'm going to add that teal that kind of isn't really there. And then I'm going to end with this darker color. If this doesn't take up, and also there's a kind of a hard line here of where that color stops. I probably will switch to my blade brush to get that cleaner line. But essentially I just kind of want to brush kind of a horizon-y look to this. And I'm going very thick on my paint, and I don't have to use very much to get coverage for this corner for that lighter color. So that's about all that I want there. And you can see that I am getting quite a bit of that darker green coming through. So I'm just gonna get that paint on a little thicker. And then um, I'm actually gonna do both sides, oops, at the same time. I'm gonna just to keep my brush clean. Um, so I'm gonna catch this side too. And right off the bat, I'm definitely going to have to do a refill on this color. Um, so just one canvas getting this paint on here nice and thick is it's a lot. All right, without cleaning my brush, I'm going straight into that medium green that I did with a little bit of white in it. The white will blend in, and there's quite a bit of um, this is I'm using up quite a bit of this paint, so I might be thin on this particular strong colors paint. So I might have to, well, obviously I'm gonna have to redo that before I go to my other canvases. So now I do have quite a bit of paint on my brush. I'm actually gonna go back, and before I go to from the green to the teal, that medium teal that I started, I'm actually gonna go in and blend quite a bit because I really do want these colors to blend. And I did grab paint or towels, but I do have this um, ball of paper towel that I wanted to use up. So I'm just going to kind of go back in and just get those 2 colors to blend a little bit more so that it looks a little bit more gradient. Not much, but on camera you can see that it's absolutely blending. It kind of flows naturally into that. I'm going to do the same thing here with this right here, and I just kind of go back and forth to get those lighter and those darker greens to just blend a little, make it look a little bit more natural. This teal, it's going to be a thin line, but there is more canvas to cover. And so I'm going to just start with the smallest amount just to get that kind of where that's going to go. It's like seriously, maybe a brush stroke of width. And that marker that I used to draw out my lines last time, that is kind of showing through a little bit. So I'm definitely going to be expanding this line just to cover that. Um, and then same with this. This side is equally small amount. I'm definitely getting into the green here. Um, and that's okay just because there is green in this shade of teal, this tint, this teal tint. Um, but the idea is to get more of that thick canvas coverage. Got quite a bit of that black coming through. So because I did put on Sharpie on here, I'm gonna have to get a little bit more paint. And again, I'm just rinsing only so that I can blend that teal to the green to make that gradient. That is it. That's all I'm doing. It's just a very nice, very dry brush and just getting those colors to blend. And it is showing through that marker that I used last time. It is showing through, but will essentially come through with that. That is the beauty of these paintings, is that I can kind of fix as I go. And same here, we just gotta get that green. And this one, the green is almost kind of hidden. So lots of good blending. Last tiny strip. And this is where I'm gonna get that blade brush just because I do want to kind of keep that. You can see that this teal is very similar to that. It's the only difference is that this watery teal does not have the green in it. And so I'm just going to kind of create a nice hard line. And I can tell right off the bat that this hard line is going to need um, some black in it. That is something that, and that's something that dark Sharpie that I have, that'll actually be a good boundary to use something like that, that wavy line, going back in with some dark paints afterwards, and just kind of reaffirming that curvy little line. Actually, like that. So last one to get in here, and then so I've used very little of that, very little of that, and I still have all three of those. I'm gonna have to remix. And at this point, this painting, this green is done. So like when I get to the next painting, um, oh, I think I got too much water in here. When I get to the next painting, um, it is going to, the green is going to be a little maybe different than this particular color, um, or this particular painting. That's okay. Um, the idea is just a close painting. Like I wanted these paintings to at least, if they were on the wall together, they would at least sort of, their colors would kind of flow into each other, even if the patterns don't. And so this, uh, I am surprised how much of this dark green I used. And that looks like those two both have good coverage. Lots of canvas here to cover. And so once again, I'm just cleaning my brush, and then I'm going to just blend those a little. And then these two will be done. And then I'll go back in later and clean up that line. That's much more detailed work than this point in the painting. This point in the painting, it's still very much big picture, very abstract. Um, Still haven't kind of picked the direction of this painting, and so that, um, at this point in the painting, we don't want to, be too exact with anything. So that is beautiful gradient. You can definitely see the Sharpie coming through, not so much on the video, but up close. So I might have to go back in and, you know, add another layer of paint, or maybe that is a design element that just needs to stay in this painting. So nice, beautiful shading. I love how that turned out. Definitely not as thick as I would like, but this one is done. So I'm going to keep my palette here and then swap out for the other paintings. I have little towels set up kind of all over my office to allow these paintings to dry on the floor. Next painting. So the reason I went with this one instead of the lined one, I'm just going to pull up, lost my line painting. So the other two paintings that I have are these. And this is the most similar to the one that I just did. So I'm going to start with this and do kind of that gradient. I do like these white spots. So after I do the gradient, I might actually add those back in. This is the farthest from the painting that I just did. However, you can see the elements, the color elements. So we've got that dark teal kind of going through here, and then that medium green, but there's opportunity for some of that lighter green in here. And so I kind of want to maybe explore that similar gradient, but it's going to be a little bit more like all the colors are going to be in here. I wish I knew painting like artists to kind of show how that is, or like a think of a painter that does something like this where like all of the elements are in here, but it's just very streaky. Another fun thing is this color is also done here. So when I get done with this top part, then I'll focus on this color. And there's a little bit of this green, just barely visible. So this might also be similar to that. I will wait to do this just because it is a different brush technique. And just from, you know, from a painting perspective, it's easier to do similar techniques. So first step is to mix more of my paints. Remember these three paintings and whatever's left of that will be repurposed into a mystery canvas. I actually got this idea from, I think it's called Da Vinci Restoration. They recently restored out of Edina. They just recently restored a painting for me, and uh, the the lady who restored my painting, she ended up some of the colors that she was using in the restoration. She ended up making, you know, just a little thank you card, and the colors look like they were the colors that she used in the restoration. I don't know that she did that, but it spurred the the idea that um, we as painters have this leftover paint all the time. And so, you know what? I just realized I can reuse that too. Um, we we have all this leftover paint all the time, and it's uh, it could be repurposed to make additional art, just very abstract additional art. I took the paper towel for the. So I don't know that that's what she did. I just it spurred an idea, and so I'm gonna give her a try and just hopefully have um, see, hopefully have you know, an abstract piece just from repurposed paints. I think that'll be a fun little side project. Now these two are not exactly matching. You can't really see it. See if I can get zoom in anymore. But you can see that like the top one is just a hair darker than the bottom one. That's fine. Um, I just noticed I had that spare green and saves me the hassle of mixing while I'm painting. And then for this one looks like I probably will have close to enough, but um, I just I don't want to mix while I'm painting. That's going to be um, that's a time-consuming thing to have happen. So these both are greens. So I've got that phthalocyanine blue, got my green, just a hair of green, and then a hair of white here, and that will allow the paint to allow me to mix the paints, get at least close. This particular painting, I can tell you right off the bat, needs way more of this color. It is much darker than the other painting, and so I will have to mix for in the middle of this painting. So the colors will be slightly different, but it'll be close. Like um, it's an abstract painting anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And this mixture is kind of fun because I'm mixing with existing paint, and so these colors kind of do blend really well together. And this color is not really on the canvas, so that's just kind of a fun addition to what is already here. So I'm going to do a similar brush stroke, like I said, and then I will add back in that white. I don't have any white on here, so I should probably add that. And this will just be for that add back. Just a design element that I saw that I liked that I want to keep. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top, work my way down. So in here we've got a little bit of blue, and then it's the white, the green, and then that teal. This green is significantly darker through here, so I think I might have to add in this green with black just in that middle range. So we'll see how that works out. So again, I'm going to do very similar. I'm going to do a gradient. This flows a little bit better. So I kind of like the flow of it, but I'm just going to see how these colors kind of play together. And this is not exactly straight like the other canvas, so it's going to be a lot more curvy, a lot more pieces that are kind of trying to play together. It's kind of funny that I'm focusing so much on these edges. They actually don't, they're not visible once I get this framed. So that's it. I mean, all that white, and that is it for that light, light, light. So now I have to get that medium gray in, and it's essentially just going to be kind of right along that border, and it is tiny amount. This is a much, much darker painting. Way too much paint on my brush. And then blending right away. And actually, now that I look at this, there is quite a bit more light. These this particular painting, the blending isn't even like the previous one, and so it does make it a little bit more challenging to work with, but it's also kind of makes it more interesting. So yeah, the colors are going to definitely be the same. Like these paintings could go on the wall together and match and be in the same room, but the um, but the shape, the design is so much different. And I can tell you right now I need way more paint on the canvas. So now this green is very dark, and so it actually in this painting it actually goes that dark green and then the dark teal and the light teal is on the outside. And so that's going to be really cool to see that big difference. So we're going into dark green, which was not on the previous painting. Oops. I'm going from top to bottom so I don't, essentially, so I don't put my elbows in wet paint. So this is very dark green, and I absolutely love that dark green. I don't know that I'm going to have to mix more of this. I have no idea I don't think this color is on the other canvas, so I am going to do my best to use all of this stuff. And so if that means maybe not exactly honoring the exact colors, that might be the case. In this little piece, the dark is here and the light is here. This is the only reason that this is a little bit of a problem is for blending purposes. I definitely want I have to work with the wet paint. So that is getting into my white, and I very much don't want that. So I like the way that it blended otherwise. So just kind of going up into the dark and back down into the light and just getting those colors to blend. And that turns out beautiful on camera. I mean, on canvas, it's beautiful too, but to just see it on this part, I might have to add water later just to get those to blend because I do want to focus more on this darker teal that I will likely have to make more of for, for this particular canvas. Yeah, and maybe I won't. Hey, would you look at that? I can probably get by with that. All right, so now we're just blending that teal with that green. There is the only common color between those two is the green, so that it 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 is kind of a stretch to blend them. But we got it to work. Nice and dark and um, almost mysterious, these blendings. And you can see a lot of that white coming through. Um, we'll fix that later. And now we've got this lighter color and then the lighter color here. And thankfully that white is coming through because that is my plan to go through and add that back in because I really did like that. So I've got this kind of lighter teal that's kind of coming through and it's going to blend twice, which may be tricky up here. I've actually I don't think I've ever blend colors in this particular shape. So I'm just going to add another dollop up here to get some of that color. And then when I blend, I'll figure that out. Straight lines are so much easier to blend. And I didn't bother to even draw my straight line on this one. I'm totally just eyeballing it. So again, I want lots of paint up there because I'm going to be blending in a weird way. All right. So I've got essentially 2 canvases done with this technique and 1 to go, and then my mystery painting, which we don't know what that's going to look like. So I'm going to just blend this dark, kind of this very dark olivey green in with the teal, and that same color is on my brush. So I'm just going to kind of blend those together, and that actually blends on its own. So, I really want my brush nice and dry for this blend. So Very cool looking. And then just spinning out some of the paint. And now this chunk will go into the life of an amateur artist, just playing for fun. So I'm just kind of going back and forth, up and down into that white, into that, or the lighter teal, into the darker teal. And that looks well blended. I can't actually see the white, but I really did like that. That is something I can add in later. But I'm going to grab a smaller brush just to add that in, as it's gonna look almost like an afterthought. So it was just kind of in here a little bit. I'm just gonna add some dots, and it's going to definitely blend in with the colors. And I'm honestly like, there's some little bubbles on the canvas that are kind of guiding this shape. It's just kind of places where the, yeah. So just a little blob. Okay, next canvas. This will be the interesting one because it's not at all the technique that I've been using. So instead of going with a clean gradient up and down, we're just going to take elements of both into and just kind of get it all on the canvas. It's going to kind of all blend, but it's going to be messy. Definitely need more of this. I've got plenty of this. This color does not show up on this canvas. And then there's a little bit of green. Yeah, so this just needs some green and the phthalocyanine blue. I want to call it just dark teal, but it's not really dark teal until I mix in the green and the blue. And um, this particular canvas, there is every chance that I will have to mix mid painting. As I'm looking at this dark, there's quite a bit of dark on here, but in order to get that blend, I am gonna probably need additional teal too. So just a little bit of white. So I'm doing this particular color is coming from equal parts white, light green, and blue, phthalocyanine blue. So more of that teal blue base. Mixing those. I have so many paper towels just laying around my paint studio. My studio ends up getting quite dirty just because I work on something and then I'm waiting for it to dry, and then the mess just kind of mysteriously stays there. I don't really have a routine for cleaning up after myself. Probably should do that. All right, so light green, regular green, oops, teal, light teal, and then the dark teal. And we're just gonna so this particular technique, going with that very big brush. It's kind of a wash brush, and uh, I like to start with the lighter colors. So the only place that this lighter green, it's kind of in here, and I'm just gonna basically very, very thickly get it on here. Kind of just those places that I see it, and then it will blend later. So just getting as much of that on as I can, but for the most part, this is a lot of play. All right, so now without cleaning my brush, I'm actually going to go back into that medium gray and just start getting those places. And that's where I get those bigger streaks. There's none of that medium green down here, so I can just focus that green up here. And I'm not blending yet. I think I've got most of that medium green, those places, kind of coverage of where that canvas is exposed. Again, not mixing or not thinning my brush. Um, the lighter teal is kind of more down here, little spots up there. So just grabbing some of that and getting that on canvas for no other reason than when it nice and thick and not quite dry, and then we'll blend it later. And I'm using almost all of this. So this particular color, apparently this is the prominent color of the colors that I've used so far. I do have like a little white spot down here that I'm going to have to address. So I might just have to use that plain white. And then the last color, again, not cleaning my brush, just that very dark color. Just getting that up here. That is very prominent on this painting, so we want to make sure we get lots of that. And then now I'm just going to, essentially, I'm going to go over a lot of the blue, but the idea is that I'm just going to so that was the darkest color, blending with some of those lighter colors. I am cleaning it. The darker color does tend to take over. This part I am going to add, I didn't clean my brush too crazy, but I am going to add just a little bit of white here, just to kind of have essentially paint that mixes with these as I brush it on. So this part was quite a bit lighter, and then up here there is too. So I'm just going to essentially, I am kind of doing similar brush strokes, it's just there's different paint on the canvas now, and so then it's blending differently, and that's basically what I was looking for, is just a very abstract version of what I had started with. And I do have similar brush strokes. This one blended way more than I had intended. It still has those lines, but I very much, I like the idea of just kind of, you could do this all day, honestly. This one is blending, so I want to kind of limit that. But yeah, so just got those blends in there. I am gonna, I kind of want to go back in when I start fine tuning and doing some of the details. I very much like the colors coming out, and so that's an opportunity for some straight lines, maybe some vertical lines, kind of definitely focusing on the lines. All right, so all three canvases are done, and now comes my mystery canvas that I have just canvases laying around somewhere in my studio. And so just a blank canvas that I got laying around. I am going to just get all of this color off my palette, and I very much liked that gradient idea. So I do like the idea of going from light to dark. However, usually when I start with paint on canvas, I do more of a watered look to it. So So I am going to add a little bit of water to make this um, just get on canvas a little bit, maybe get hint more coverage, and then this is clearly going to be a background to whatever this painting ends up being, if anything. And I have so much paint that I can use for this. So this will go nice and far. Also, the water will allow the colors to blend, so that's fun. So lots of that color went nice and far. I feel like this might be a bonus painting for the amount of coverage I'm getting on this. All right, so not cleaning off my brush, continuing to add just a little bit of water to this medium green color. And I'm going to just add to both sides. And, you know, just to kind of keep in line with the other paintings, I am going to try out my brush and get these colors to blend a little bit. I just happen to like that gradient, how it turned out. When I have gradients like this where it's kind of over the same area, okay, this is, I flip my brush. Random technique hack for you, just so that those colors do blend. Okay, and what other colors do we have? So we've got this weird olive gray, and we've got some teal. So, um, you know, honestly, I feel like the teal is, oh, I've got dark teal up here. So I've got light teal and dark teal. I'm going to go with both of those. And I'm just going to get, the light teal needs just a little bit of water to get that to spread. Again, this is clearly a background to a mysterious painting that's like a bonus painting that is going to come out of this using these colors, not wanting to waste my resources. Um, you know, that's the paint is not cheap, so making sure that these resources last, and also that from an enjoyment standpoint, this is art is meant to be for people to enjoy, and by saving my resources, that just makes it more enjoyable for other people also. Um, Again, rinsing my brush so that I get that blend. Not really sure what's happening with this really dark olivey green. So like, I feel like the fact that I have yet to use it on this canvas tells me everything that I need to know about that color, that I will very likely not be mixing that color again. All right, so I got that gradient mixed. And then the last color, so I'm just gonna get a little bit of water in this nice dark color I got here. And it's a lot of water actually, and get that nice dark color. And you can kind of see that has trouble staying to canvas just without that white, that opaqueness of white. It's hard to stay on canvas. It's too thin almost. So there we go. I make canvases for my nieces and nephews, and this might be an opportunity to make a canvas for somebody. I kind of like that idea, that this will end up somebody's birthday or Christmas presents. So just kind of going back and forth, getting those colors to blend, and you can see that as you get less and less white, it does blends less and less. There we go. Nice canvas. This is too wet for this weird gray color. So, and I'm not going to get a whole lot of coverage with that. So, what I'm going to do instead is I'm actually going to, I can't believe I have enough for 3 little bonus painting, or 2 bonus paintings. I'm actually going to just grab my notebook and explore that color in my kind of workbook that I have. So I have just a notebook that I use to explore colors, and um, this would be a really great opportunity for this color to just get some, for me to explore it as an artist. So just getting it on paper, no other reason than to not waste it. This color, I actually, it's kind of a very neutral color. Obviously, that's fun pro tip for you. That is how you make more neutral colors. So like if you think about the colors in your house, if you want more neutral tones, you mix a gray and a white with it, or a black and a white, and it gives you that neutral tone. The reason I like this particular color is it would be a nice backdrop for like a sketch with like something black and white. And you can see I'm getting a little more of those greens. I don't have any other colors on here. Maybe this dark green I can maybe get in there, but even still, this just looks like it would be really cool to add like a black, like even Sharpie or black drawing on here. That would look really cool. Also, just something that I do for my personal benefit is I make notes. So I can't make note over wet paint, so just we'll call this extra paint, and we're gonna say this was light green. Oops, with black and white. And then if I ever want to come back and mix that paint up again, I can. The other colors, I'm going to be honest, all of these colors are colors that I use regularly, whereas this color I've never used, and this color is something that I would probably use again. So sorry for the long video. I made extra paint and that made the video longer. We'll see where the paintings end up tomorrow. I am probably going to focus on getting some of the water colors, so those blues. They're very flowy and I like that. There's probably not going to be a whole lot that I'm going to have to do with those. Maybe adding a few extra colors. I'm going to have to address so I'm going to quick pull up the things that need to be addressed. So this right here, you can see that those dark colors are coming through. The Sharpie is coming through. That's easy and a very easy thing for me to address. So I'm going to have to address that once the paint's dry. Otherwise, the other thing that I'm probably going to need to address, this is probably going to be like 2 days down the road, just continuing to add more of those accents with the blade brush. Otherwise we're done for the day, and thank you so much for spending an hour with me. Take care.